In this video, I'm going to be looking at the tab order associated with a graphical user interface built using Python. The tab order relates to how focus moves from one widget to another when you press the tab key on the computer keyboard. For this program, we can see that these three lines are creating three entry widgets, and these three will be placing the entry widgets in appropriate positions on the window. Here we're producing three labels, and these three lines are positioning the labels appropriately on the window. Now this line is the one I wish to discuss first, and you can see that it is responsible for creating an entry widget, and this entry widget will be associated with this window that was created on this line, and I'm setting the background color to red. Now this is creating an instance of the entry class, and the name associated with that instance, i.e. the name that is effectively referencing the instance, is this name here. So we can say that entry_A is bound to this object, where this object is an instance of the entry class. To further the description of this program, I would like to reference the computer's memory, which I'm showing here diagrammatically. Now, when this line of code executes, what's going to happen? Into the computer's memory, we're going to have an object created, and the object is going to be an instance of the entry class, and I'm showing the object as being here, and this is the name that's bound to the object. Now, if you consider the object, you can see that it is red. Now, the reason it is red is because here I set the background color to red. Now, I'd like to stress that this instance, which is the instance of the entry class, an object of the entry class, is not on the form at the moment. It is in the computer's memory. So we do not have a visual presence for this, but I am diagrammatically showing, schematically showing, that we have, because of this line, an entry instance here in the computer's memory. So if I go on to this line now, what it's going to do, well, it's pretty similar to the line above. The difference, however, is the background color has been set to yellow, and of course the name that I'm going to bound to this instance is called entry_B. So if we look to the memory, what we're going to see in there is this, where this is the object, this is the instance of the entry class, and we can see it is bound to this name, and if you look at the instance you can see it's yellow. So if we now consider this line of code, what we can say is it will also produce an instance of the entry class, and this will be shown in the memory, the schematic diagram I've produced, as you can see here. And if you look at the object, you can see it's white, and it's white because I've set the background color to white, and it is bound to this name, and the reason it's bound to this name is that's the name as it appeared here in the code. So these three are all examples of instances of the entry class, and they will therefore share all of the behaviors and all of the attributes associated with the entry class. Now, of course, what I have done, I have taken the background color in each case and give them different values. So this is obviously red, yellow, and white. If we consider this line of code, it too is going to create an instance of a class, but on this occasion it's going to be creating an instance of the label class, which is going to be associated with my window, which was created on this line, and it's going to have its text property set to first name, and we're going to have this object bound to this name, label_A. So what we'll look at when we see the memory now is this. We can see that this is the object that's bound to this name, and if we have a look at the object we can see it is first name, and that's because here we set the text to first name. Now this line is almost identical to the one we've just discussed, the difference being here you can see that the text is being assigned middle name. So what we would expect to see in the memory in this case is as you can see here, and of course we can see this is the object and this is the name that's bound to that object. If we come to this line, it also is pretty similar to the previous two. The difference here is of course that the text is being set to last name. So what we would expect to see in the memory is this, where this is the object and you can see its text is last name, and this is the name that's bound to that object. To avoid possible confusion, I would like to stress that the 6 objects that you're looking at here in the computer memory is not showing what they look like on a window. I'm using a schematic diagram here and modeling what you would expect to see in the memory. Of course, the memory would be holding binary patterns for each of these things that you can see, and those patterns will be defining the instance of the class. So, and here we have 6, and we're not, and I stress again, not looking at what we would expect to see on a window. This is in the memory behind the scenes of our tkinter graphical user interface. And as a programmer, we don't really need to get involved in how this appears in the computer's memory, what the actual binary patterns are for each of these objects. We just need to know what the methods are and what the attributes are for the classes. That'll help guide us as to what we can do with instances of those classes. Let's now turn our attention to the graphical user interface that this program will actually produce. And here we can see the window, and now we'll go on to look at this line of code and what it will do. Now, this line of code is a message. It is a message to this object that invokes this grid method. And the grid method has its arguments, in this case, assigned as row equals to 0 and column equals 1. Consequently, this object will appear within the window in this position, which is row 0, column 1. This line of code is also a message, but on this occasion it's a message to this object, which is this one in the memory, and if we come and have a look at the arguments here, we can see that's row 1, column 1, so we'll have the widget appearing here. This, well, it's almost identical to the previous 2 lines of code, except here I've changed the row to 2, which will mean that this white entry box, as it is being stored in the memory, will be shown in the window in this position. Now, this line of code is also a message. It's a message to this object, and it's invoking the grid method again. And if we have a look at the arguments, we can see we're going to be placing the object in row 0, column 0. So this label here, as it appears in the memory, will appear on the window, as you can see here. This line, again, it's a message. It's a message now to this object, which is the next label, as we can see in the computer's memory, and it's going to be positioned in row 1, column 0. So this will appear here. This, well, it's also a message. It's a message to this object, which invokes this method. And of course, we're now dealing with this object here, and it will be placed in row 2, column 0, which we can see if we look at the window is in this position here. This program is almost identical to the one we've just been considering. The difference is on this line, I am setting the focus to this object, where this object is the one that was created here and positioned using this line of code. Let's consider the graphical user interface, and if you look here, you can see the cursor is flashing inside this entry widget. The reason it's flashing here is we gave it the focus in the code. Now, of course, I could enter somebody's first name in here. What I want to do, however, is not do that. I'm going to press the tab on the keyboard. So there's the tab being pressed, and have a look where it's gone to. It's gone to the yellow entry widget. I'll press the tab key again, and it's gone to the white entry widget. If I press it again, it goes back to the red, again yellow, then white, then red. So we can see that the cursor moves around based upon the use of the tab key on the keyboard. Now, obviously I can do this with the mouse, but here I'm doing it with the keyboard. And what you're looking at is the tab order, where it goes to next when the tab key is pressed. Now, why does it go red, yellow, white? Well, the reason is because of these lines of code here. The order in which we created the widgets was this one first, which is the red one, this one, which is the yellow one, this one, which is the white one. Of course, down here, where we position the widgets is important, and of course you would position them appropriately in the rows and columns so they appear in the order as they can be seen in the graphical user interface. So this is really common sense why you would need to position them in this order on the graphical user interface, but this defines what the tab order will actually be. So for example, I'm going to now change the order here and have a look at the runtime to see what happens. This program is almost identical to the one we've just considered. The difference is I've altered the order in which the widgets have been created. You can see I'm creating entry C first, then entry B, then entry A. And I'm keeping the colors the same for each of the widgets. And if you would like to compare this order to the order in which they were a moment ago, you can see it here. I've just moved this one to be first, this one to be last, and I've left B the same in the middle. This is the runtime, and if you have a look at the widgets, you can see they're in the order of red, yellow and white, and that's because of these program statements here. We chose the rows and columns for these so that they would be in the order you can see in the graphical user interface. Now we can see that this widget has the focus because of this flashing cursor. Now why does it have the focus? Well, because of this line of code here, where we set the focus to entry_A widget. Now where do you think the focus is going to go if I hit the tab key on the keyboard? For the purpose of the graphical user interface, we would want it to go to here, because that would be the sensible place for it to go next. So let's see where it does go when I hit the tab key. Well, it goes here. It goes to the white background widget. Why does it go here? Because if you look at the code, you see that's the first one in the tab order. So where should it go now for the purpose of the graphical user interface is back to the red one. But it doesn't. If we press the tab key, we can see that it goes here to entry_B widget, because that's the next one in the tab order. Where will it go now? Well, it goes to the red one, because that's the next one in the tab order. Of course, we would now want it to go back to the yellow one, but it won't. It'll go back to the white one, because that's in the tab order here. And then, of course, it'll go to entry widget B, and then entry widget A, and then entry widget C again. So it doesn't go in a sensible order for the purpose of the graphical user interface. This is the original code I had, and you can see I've put these back in the order that they should be. So when we decide what the tab order needs to be for the graphical user interface we're building, we need to make sure that we create the instances in a sensible order, and that order is shown here, where we create entry_A first, then entry_B, and then entry_C. And we have to make sure, obviously, that we choose the displaying of the entry widgets as shown here by choosing the appropriate rows and columns. So the tab order is really governed by the order in which we created the instances as shown here in the memory. So the tab order for the widgets is as dictated by the order that they appear here in the memory before we display them on the graphical user interface. Check out the supporting website for these videos. In addition, why not follow me on Twitter, as I issue a tweet every time I upload a new video.